Mr. Vijay. But moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, our first panel discussion for the day is on the topic Payment Solutions for Retail and E-Commerce. Our moderator for the session is Mr. Samarjit Singh, President, Excella, who's a veteran in the internet industry and loves challenges of setting new businesses and has passion for internet-enabled businesses. So we have Mr. Samarjit Singh here. Welcome, Mr. Singh. And joining him are our panel members. Our first panel member, Mr. Alok Jha, Managing Director, CyberCloud. He was the CEO of the venture called One-to-One Marketing Solutions, which also launched India's first smart card-based retailer royalty program for consumers called My Shopping. Also joining them is Mr. Krishna Lakansani, founder iPay.in, a serial entrepreneur with 16 years of experience in IT systems and development management, e-commerce and leadership. Our next panel member, Mr. Kunal Shah, founder and CEO of Recharge.in. A believer of power of free, Kunal pioneered a model whereby customers recharge their mobiles, DTH and data card online and are rewarded by equivalent value coupons. Our next panel member for this panel discussion, Mr. Deepak Chandani, CEO, Worldline. Deepak has over 30 years of experience across a variety of industries, product categories and market segments with expertise in financial services and the emerging payment space. And joining them is Mr. Shanta Vijay from Atom. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our panel members ready for the panel discussion. A round of applause, please. And Mr. Samarjit.
Audible? I think we have a very esteemed panel. We have a very interesting discussion in the speaker room. In fact, I don't come from a payment background myself, but it was very insightful to potentially explore the potential which these guys have in terms of understanding the whole payment ecosystem and how deeply it impacts e-commerce today, how deeply it can make it efficient, and the payment roadblocks could be the biggest reasons potentially e-commerce market may not grow or may grow. Was my learning for the last 30 minutes of interaction. I'm going to make sure that those points come across in this conversation. So the way we decided to structure this conversation was that we're going to touch 3-4 key points which each of you would be interested. One of the big assumptions we took before we decided how to conduct this panel was that people in the hall are either retailers, brand owners, or they are people who are interested in setting up a new e-commerce venture, or they are part of an existing e-commerce company. Is that assumption correct? Are there any other people in the room which will, or they are from the fraternity of ecosystem itself? So, and we are trying to make sure that we address potentially all the questions you will have. The way we'll conduct this session is that we're going to take a consumer perspective, how consumer sees payments. We're going to cover the ecosystem perspective, that is the banks, the issuing banks, and the whole challenges around the payment ecosystem. We're also going to cover the whole challenges on, if there are challenges which the whole industry is facing on the technology front. And finally, I think we will end up saying that what are interesting innovations which are happening in this space and how payments can drive the growth of e-commerce or e-retail in the country. So one of the big things which we started discussing was that what is a consumer perspective on this entire stuff, and let me throw the house open to give everybody perspective. And before that, I think I'll make sure that all the panelists introduce themselves for a half a minute and then also give their perspective as to what do they think are the challenges and opportunities from a consumer perspective on the payment side. We can start with you, Shan. Quick introduction and your perspective.
I think the challenges which a consumer faces when he's doing a transaction, probably on the internet or on the POS, is that how secure is my data is what is his biggest worry. I think if that is addressed, I think he would try and use more of his card.
So it's trust. Just a quick introduction.
Yeah, hi, I'm Shanta Vijay. I represent Atom. I have about 60 years of experience and I have worked in the payment industry for more than 10 years. And various, I started off in ICICI Bank at Hyderabad. I went on for about six years in ICICI, then about 2 years in Amex. For the past 4 years, I'm into e-commerce and commerce and POS.
Just my introduction, I'm founder of FreeCharge. The company has been around almost for 4 years and would be in the top 5 e-commerce companies in terms of number of transactions per day in this country. When it comes to our transactions, they are all non-COD transactions. We do recharge services. My opinion around the consumer behavior has been that a consumer is not going to pay advance money unless a strong reason is given to him. Indian consumer is very discerning and they want to know why should I be paying first. And I think a lot of the COD based transactions still exist, not because of consumer savviness not being there to pay. IRCTC is a classic example where lakhs of customers pay and get their tickets online every day. They don't pay on an e-commerce because of the trust deficit that they have on the ecosystem, and I think that's a big cultural thing that is there amongst us. I've seen that behavior amongst the industry veterans also. They are doing the COD behavior, so it's not that payments can solve that problem.
Alok, your introduction and your perspective.
My name is Alok Jha. I represent Servplat. We are one of the largest aggregator of services in this country. We power about 250 companies and reach out to about 500,000 retail stores, clocking 30 million transactions every month. And my perspective on the consumer, we interact with multiple interfaces of payment mechanisms. And 3 things. 1, it has to be simple. 2nd, it has to be convenient. And 3rd, the response has to be faster. That's what customer looks like, period.
Hi, my name is Krishna Rakamsani and this is my 4th stint in the business world. Since I was 21 years, I built 3 companies in US and came back to India, built this iPay as a concept. What we are trying to do versus what consumer is feeling. Today, 92% of Indian population doesn't transact online. So at the same time, they are willing to work with local retailers. Local retailers, if you go to Kirana store, consumer behavior here, what we observe is, you go to retailer store and retailer says, I don't have goods now, I will get it, pay me advance, you're willing to pay. That is the only simple thing which we wanted to bring it towards the payments. That's what we are looking towards. And consumer here wanted to pay to someone whom he can trust, where basically who has a face where he is paying. Of course, that's the most important thing in Indian culture, and the consumer behaves that way. We wanted to bring solutions towards that behavior. Okay, thanks for it.
Hi, good morning. My name is Deepak. I represent Worldline, which is a large European payments company. Came to India a few years ago. My personal background is that I have worked at organizations like Citibank and NCR, and most recently I was running a payments company based out of Redwood City, California. I've been back in the country for the last 1 month and happy to be again part of the Indian payment industry. The question of what consumers are looking for, I think 3 things. 1, they're looking for a deal, some advantage. They go to e-tailers and online because they get so many offers they can examine, look at and get a good deal. The hygiene factor is that they should be able to trust that site, and the other hygiene factor is there should be convenience. So I think a combination of these 3 offer the consumer a deal. Trust me, it's not just your wife that's looking for a deal, even you are when you buy a phone or a television set. So those are the 3 fundamentals for e-tailing.
Thanks, everybody. So I think the key points which are coming out is that one of the interesting thing which are, or the three key things which a consumer is looking at is trust, convenience. So let's cover these 2 points before we leave the consumer point and get into the payment ecosystem. Kunal, your perspective on why there is a challenge of trust. Yes, 8% of the country is doing. You're an interesting retailer where you only do online payments. There is nothing called COD in your business. Why you are able to do it, and let's get on to e-retail where majority of the business is happening on COD.
Like I said, every consumer needs a strong reason of either adhering to a behavior or changing a behavior, right? And trust is a big thing where we've seen success of payments, electronic payments in services which are instant in nature, right? So you will see success in tickets, you will see success in movie tickets, travel, and recharge. You don't see success of payments, of electronic payments in other format of retail, and cash on delivery is preferred because there is this Indian thing of ek haath de kind of a thing, right? It's something that is ingrained in us and it cannot be changed overnight. I don't think Indian consumers feel comfortable paying something and waiting for something for 2 days and have that anxiety to deal with, right? We like to make it quick. Do a quick handshake and move on. But we've seen that services like Recharge where the risk is kind of lower for doing 100 rupees or 200 rupees or 300 rupees transaction. We see consumers not having that much of a friction versus, let's say, a 2,000 rupees transaction, right? So that's the key learning for us. We believe that India has to still go through the cycle of first learning to pay their bills online first, which only, by the way, only 8 to 10% pay online before they start to buy the t-shirts online.
Are you saying it's a value-based thing also, so nobody will buy air ticket worth lakh rupees on the credit card, or it is just the whole product thing? I need the product, ek haath de.
For me, I think the Indian customer actually does online transactions for only 2 reasons. Either they have a need of it or they have the greed of it, right? So that's the behavior that I've seen, that they're actually changing behavior and transacting online.
So the learning is need you can't take care of because it's his need. If you can create greed, it could potentially work in that as well. I think, Krishna, you were talking about an interesting solution which you have created, where you said that, oh, if a person has this need of ek haath de, here is a solution which is reaching out to people and creating a retail format for collection, and maybe throw some light as to what has been your learnings. And we were discussing and we felt that he's in the business of COD kiosk. And let's explain as to what that means.
I agree with Kunal, what he says, so basically if there are services and if you give payment and immediately get a service, you are happy. If there is a goods which you have to wait for 2 days, you have a dilemma. At the same time, if you are giving to someone whom you know that money is safe, that side is also good enough. Now we are bringing 2 words together to create a solution in the retail format. This retailer would hold a tablet of Android tablet with all these services which can be availed on the spot while he is there. At the same time, he could also order products through this retail store, and when he pays to retail store. So to start with, what we have achieved is, we wanted to make sure these consumers whom we are serving today should be trustworthy. They should be trusting our brand and our retailer. To start that, we started with services and also have a physical goods on the same marketplace. So these services, now the point is these retailers across India are not educated enough to do all these transactions, they are not interested because that's not their core business. So we eliminated so much work from the retailer side and took over to call center. How it works is basically, if I can take 1 more minute, how it works is, retailer holds this tablet and you go for a service like booking a flight ticket, booking a movie ticket, booking a bus ticket. He doesn't need to know, he doesn't need to be educated to know what is the spelling of Mumbai to book Mumbai bus ticket. So he asks you a phone number of yours and he puts the phone number on the tablet. Next 3 seconds, your phone is ringing from our call center. And our call center knows where you are standing because the request came from so-and-so tablet. And also we know that what you asked. If you are a repeated customer, we also know your customer name. Hello, so-and-so, this is so, you asked a bus ticket and Hyderabad to Bangalore, Hyderabad to Bombay. Okay, these are the bus tickets. So we integrated with all these aggregators in our inventory system. We will be browsing through and telling them what is the best price available. Yes, if you are ready as a customer, when you are ready for to pay, sir, can you please pay 480 rupees? Then retailer doesn't know what you're speaking to the call center. Retailer will look at the tablet which is getting a prompted alert on his tablet saying that please collect 480 rupees. So he just collects 480 rupees and punches this number, and immediately call center executive prints a ticket in cloud printing technology, and the printout comes in the retail store and an SMS comes to you. That's the model where, so this delivery model will bridge trust from the consumer at the consumer side, and he's willing to try to buy physical goods is the way of thinking. So we created this solution since
I think interesting thing. So he's saying that potentially because people are, as Kunal has said, people are scared. Either it's a need or the greed when you put the credit card. But the rest of the people are looking more for assisted commerce, assisted payments, and here's a solution where they're enabling retailers where you can pay cash and they can put the payment in respect on a credit card or a wallet. So one of the things which happened when we were discussing was that in India, I don't know how many of you know, the credit card penetration has dropped. The number of credit cards in the country have gone down. Deepak, I think you were adding an interesting perspective there, and he has an American perspective to it as to how the payments have moved in the western part of the world and what is happening in India. Maybe you can throw some light as to and your vision on how payments can enable trust amongst consumers and convenience amongst consumers.
I came back to India a month ago after a few years, and what I found was, and I joined a payments company that does credit card issuance, debit card issuance and acceptance, and to my horror I found the number of credit cards have shrunk. They used to be 25 million, they're now to 20 million. But what I did find was the number of debit cards issued by banks have gone up dramatically in our country. The challenge, however, is that, and I've been doing this for a long time, the challenge, however, is that people take these debit cards but actually just treat them as ATM cards. So when they get them, they put it in their Conjure Mera and lock them up. And that doesn't really help. The purpose of a debit card is to actually use it for a debit transaction, which is a safer transaction, a lower cost transaction. And as I look at this whole perspective, I worry about why banks are asleep at the wheel with regard to debit cards. Today, they earn perhaps a 4 or 5% float on the money you have lying in your savings account. If they can encourage you to use your debit card and use the money in your savings account to shop, every time you shop, they can make 20, 30 basis points, and you'll do that repeatedly. They can earn a lot more on the money lying with them in the savings account than they do today. You see this happening now, especially in the US, which I'm also familiar with, where you find that today 40% of the transactions that happen on a point of sale machine are happening through a debit card and not the credit card. And people are being encouraged to use their debit cards. So large banks like Bank of America, Chase, give you incentives as a customer to use your debit card at point of sale machines. That is something we need here to drive electronic payments per se, to grow the electronic part of payments and move away from cash. I appreciate what Krishna is doing and others are doing to sort of do a halfway house and get partial conversion to e-commerce and partial cash. But I think we need to make the big move as we go forward. It will benefit banks, it will benefit consumers, it will benefit the entire industry.
I think another interesting idea, push towards debit cards. We're seeing assisted commerce in the form of retail. Alok, your perspective. I think one of the interesting points you brought out during the pre-discussion was that India is a cash economy, right? And so e-commerce industry cannot change that structure until that structure changes in the country. E-commerce industry or the e-retail industry needs to adapt to it. What kind of things you have seen that e-retail industry can take advantage and put payment mechanisms around it to take the growth to the next level?
Sure. I take on from what Deepak was saying. I will just quickly run through some obvious facts. 2% credit card penetration, we all know. 13% debit card penetration. 40% of people in this country have bank accounts. So what next? 110,000 ATMs, 800,000 POS terminals, all skewed towards the metros. So, and hence, what has happened is what he was rightly saying. One of the things was the card was being locked into the locker of the house. The second thing, the bank was telling the customer, here is the card, the only thing you can do is you can withdraw the money. Till recently, it was always sold like given like an ATM card rather than a debit card. So you need to have the entire fraternity has to go. Consumers have to go through this behavioral change of accepting or moving away from ATM to the debit card perspective and start using it. And hence we see 89% withdrawal is from the debit card is only cash withdrawals from the ATMs. Second thing which I see this is the ecosystem issue. Okay, and hence if 92% is cash economy and ecosystem is not evolved, payment systems is still evolving in bits and pieces. Okay, IMPS evolved as an instant transfer of money, but at the same time it also suddenly realized, it put the brakes saying, okay, if I have to return the money, it takes about 15 days. It creates a dissonance in the system. It creates a friction into the system. So these are still evolving. People are finding different ways, like Krishna is doing. There are people who are circumventing different methods. We are working with one of the programs which you can see right now. It's a branded program which is called Mad for Ads, which Micromax is running. And you want to make a free call, actually somebody else pays for it. So consumer is getting all the rewards and different kinds, somebody else paying for it. But I think I'll take another minute on this. I really don't understand the COD model because it's actually bleeding everyone. What we are also trying to emphasize is India has 1.5 crore, 15 million outlets, mom and pop stores. These points have to become the convergence points for all payments and tomorrow's deliveries. You can pick up the shipments, you can drop back the shipments, you can pay at the local store. That store is existing for ages. He's not going to run away. If you just step back and see how our parents used to order the complete list of inventories from a local kirana, and you still get a credit for a month, that's where the systems will move at. The omni-channel, all payments systems converging at the retail store, that's the vision I see where India is moving.
I think a very interesting perspective. So fundamentally 2% penetration of credit cards, 3% penetration, 30% penetration, 20 million, right? 30% debit cards, only 40% bank cards. Only 40% bank accounts. And if e-commerce has to go beyond this, there has to be a payment mechanism which is beyond the banking system. And I think great idea to say that let's make the mom and pop stores or all the retail economy of the country as a collection point. Because if the e-retail industry or the e-commerce industry has to take a leapfrog, I think we need to think about such payment mechanism. I do not agree that with Alok that I personally think COD is a phenomenal innovation by the Indian e-commerce industry. It's a tiger which has not come under their control. Is kind of a trouble. They've not tamed it. I think industry should work towards taming it. In fact, Kunal had an interesting perspective, and I'll get back to him to get his perspective on the COD side. I think you had an interesting point, maybe touch it now only. You said that majority of the large e-commerce companies feel that COD is cheaper than the credit card payments, right?
Yeah, I think my discussions with the large companies like Flipkart and others have revealed that they have actually managed to cut down the cost of COD to be lower than the payment gateways, right? And that's what happens with scale. I guess one needs to understand if you accept COD to be not going away anytime soon, you start doing innovation to cut down the cost. And I think they have achieved that. Also, most interesting thing is that if you accept that is the growth lever for you, right? And you're going to gradually get people to actually store their card or do something else with you, right? You have to work towards that. But what they have done is they've actually cut down the cost of COD by innovation, and at scale it is possible. In fact, I've heard that they will be extending their services to other e-commerce formats with lower COD services, COD costs.
So you never know that Indian e-commerce would completely evolve differently, where a completely different payment method which suits Indian structure will evolve. Moving on from here, one of the areas we wanted to cover was that what is the limitation of the ecosystem at this moment. So one of the discussion points which came across was the biggest trust breaking point today in the whole payment flow is the return. So once you bought a good, you didn't like it, now you want to return it back, the whole ecosystem is not supporting it properly, and that's where the consumer trust breaks. Shanta, I'd like to come down to you and your perspective on what are the limitations of the ecosystem. Let's be open about the banking system as to what are the challenges there and how can the banking system help, or the industry needs to innovate to find that the whole return of money once a customer is not satisfied with it is seamless so that the trust doesn't break.
There are two things to it. One is the return of the product. Right, that's one. Second is return of the money back to the customer.
I'm more talking about money part because I think we're limiting it to the payment part.
Now, see, there are every e-commerce site needs to have a very explicit refund policy mentioned in their website. Whatever it is, what a customer expects, what you deliver, what you tell. That's what you want. If you tell him you will get your money back in 15 days, it has to get back to his bank account or a card within that stipulated 15 days. So this is basically what a customer expects. Now, if that's not delivered, then that's where it results in a dispute and a bad feeling about the website and all that. So this is very, very important that prudent steps have to be taken by the merchants when they are selling the goods to be very clear about what the policy is.
That's more from an expectation management side. But let's put ourselves in the shoes of the consumer. I would not like to wait for 15 days to get my money back. Right? It somehow creates the alternative, which is retail, a far better experience if this happens to me. Right? Why do you think it takes 15 days? What can be done to potentially limit it down? Would be an interesting perspective for everybody.
There are two things to it. One is credit card and debit card refund, and the second is a net banking based refund. Typically, when the transaction happens through an aggregator mode, for a credit card transaction, the merchant marks the refund on his console and money has to be transferred to him, to the aggregator. He then marks the refund to the bank. The bank takes another day or two to deduct that money from the subsequent settlement of the aggregator, then pushes the funds to the acquiring bank. The acquiring bank then pushes the funds to Visa. Then it goes to the issuer. So the chain is long.
Too long.
When it comes to net banking, again, the funds have to be recovered from the merchant's subsequent settlements, passed on to the respective bank. Now, the bank receives the funds, assuming in whatever the settlement branch in Bombay, whereas the customer is from, let's say, Trichy. The funds has to be sent, or that particular bank owns the responsibility to transfer funds to that particular branch account there. Now, what time they take is not in control of the merchant nor of the aggregator or the service provider.
This whole chain sounds too long, right? This is not good for the consumer, this is not good for the business. If you return my money back in 15 days, I would prefer a store or my trust will drop down. I think let's build this further. Deepak, I think you've been part of a bank, you worked in the banking industry for so long. Your perspective on why it takes so long, what can you potentially be done, or the payment industry, the new payment industry needs to innovate and find new solutions and keep the banks out. Please, your perspective.
Okay, before I go to the payment part of it, if I may, when I look at e-commerce, I think it's important to distinguish e-commerce from e-payments and from delivery, right? Because there can be an e-element to all of them, and there can be a physical element to all of them.
Sure.
So when we look at buying stuff on a site or getting our money back, etc., you got to look at which part of it is e, which part of it is physical. Coming to the payment point of view, I don't see any reason why it should be so complicated to get your money back. And the typical solutions for that you see around the world are the implementation of wallets. PayPal is a perfect example of that. You use your PayPal wallet to buy something, you return it, your PayPal wallet gets credited. You don't worry about what PayPal does at the back end for you. But PayPal will do it for you because they want you to keep money in their wallet. So I think those solutions will arrive. They'll arrive with the growth in commerce, and I'm very encouraged to see now so much of e-commerce happening in our country. It's bound to be followed by an efficiency that can come in. What will help a great deal, I think, for us in India is if the regulations and RBI recognize this and help some of these things happen, because our regulator, although excellent, is also somewhat conservative for the right reasons perhaps, but it's somewhat conservative, and therefore innovation in some of these new payment methods, processes is a bit slow in our country. But there are solutions, and I think they will come.
So one of the solutions you're suggesting is a wallet, the way PayPal solved it. I think Kunal, you guys have built a wallet, and how has been the experience in that front, and how has consumers benefited with it, if you can highlight?
Sure. So January 2013 is when we implemented our closed loop wallet, and December we did a count. We had over a lakh.
Just one minute. Everybody understands what's a wallet? How many people understand a wallet? I think Kunal, you need to explain what's a wallet.
Sure. So wallet can mean two things. One is actually getting the customer to store their cards with you for making seamless payments. Second is actually having money stored as private credits. So an offline equivalent could be gift vouchers that you may have available as credits to be used anytime you want. In our case, what we noticed is we were getting into at our scale lakhs of refund per month in December, and we realized that average time taken was around 12 days for customers to get a refund. We realized 68% of our complaints were also of that, right? So we took a bold step of moving all the money to a closed loop wallet when a transaction fails and the customer gets a refund in less than 2 seconds, right? What happened is the consumer actually started loving that whole thing. They didn't want to write to us. They would use that money to do another recharge and never come back and ask about bank and other things. In fact, an interesting behavior that came after that, people actually added money to the wallet by themselves to do 5 recharges together. So they would come and load 1,000 rupees and do 5 recharges in one shot. So we actually saw that the solution that was implemented for taking care of refunds actually became the consumer behavior, and today I would say 20% or 30% of our transactions actually happen through wallet.
And it's a positive working capital fuel.
Well, that's not the objective. The thing is that consumers will figure out a solution that works for them. You just have to realize that 12-15 days it actually creates a bad impression. The problem of 12-15 days is there is no tracking system also, right? Imagine payments happen in seconds, but refund happens in 15 days. It's the exact same bytes that are being transferred electronically from this side to this side. It is just irrational for them to, and you cannot give them a tracking number in most banks' case. If they call a merchant, they say, hey, we have processed it, check with your bank. A bank has no clue for like good 7-8 days. Your money is on because it's somewhere stuck in the thing. So we need to take some bold steps. We need to do something more innovative around refunds, and consumers are someone who will understand and also adapt to newer things if you take that bold step.
I think fantastic. From Kunal's perspective, coming back to the consumer point of view, how would a consumer feel that you take money in 2 seconds and then give it back in 15 days, right? So he obviously thinks that Lalaji has some other motives in point, and I think an interesting perspective came when we were talking about it. We realized that I think the biggest roadblock to e-commerce is not the consumer. I think it's the service providers, it's the retailers, it's our ecosystem which creates trust so that more and more consumers can potentially come online. And we literally get to more payments as a perspective. Alok, you had some point on saying how that trust can also be generated from a retail perspective, and how do you think the refund side works on the retail point model, where you collect the cash but you also need to give them the fund, but now you're relying on that retailer's niyat to potentially give them the money back, or you're putting systems in perspective. And I'd like to go to Krishna also on this perspective, because we're talking the same thing. In this case, he's getting an answer to a wallet. In your case, you need to get that ecosystem right so that the return happens.
So typically, the entire retail ecosystem which we cater to works on a prepaid wallet. And the moment there is a transaction which is generated and doesn't happen, it just goes back in a Ziffy and the customer is informed. and the customer knows where to pick up the store. The store is there. Again, I'm repeating, the store where you transact is near to your house. You have been seeing it for ages. You go for a stroll, you see that store. Go and buy stuff. And then your trust factor becomes the moment you do first transaction and see, okay, this transaction has gone through. You see the second transaction, the money has come back, and you will start getting wedded to that store. And slowly there will be adoption would be slow, but the moment it is you adopted, you will love to do that because it's next to your house, convenient, secured, and you have somebody to catch hold. You know, you can see that face and you can hold the corner and say "Kaise ke liye liya," kind of stuff. So this is what we all love to do that.
Krishna, specific to returns, how are you handling through your payment system? Only to returns.
Through our system, what we are trying to, first of all, why we have to give refund. Okay, it's not because bank has failed, only because merchant could not deliver the product, or merchant delivered bad product, or a transaction like a bus ticket or something which is failed, which is supposed to be booked. In this case, we are very straightforward, and we actually said if there is a refund is happening, we send OTP to the consumer mobile who is basically bought that. This OTP, he can go to any of our outlets across India, whatever we are creating, just give this OTP, and this guy gets cash from this Kirana store because he actually collected our cash. Every Kirana store in the country or city, they collected our money behalf of us. It is with them in the counter, so they can disperse the cash, which will incentivize the retailer to give money to the consumer as well. So, in my way of thinking, you know, when a merchant or retailer is taking money in a second from the consumer, you should be able to give back as soon as he asks. That is the way one consumer should think, and also retailers should think. And another perspective, so why e-commerce companies today are having a problem, or especially refunds, is our banks are very good creating money taking, but giving back is taking 15 days. And also not only that, some of the e-commerce small time players, they cheating people around the consumer world. Whenever they get a problem, people who has a problem, they only talking. Okay, actually this whole thing is backwards, coming back and saying, oh, in case if I buy online, better to be cash on delivery. If I give card, I don't know money, then it will come, or if I get, that's the model it is going on. If someone, Kunal is telling in the discussion earlier, if someone creates a third-party validation tool for each e-commerce website, you know how they are processing refunds, how quickly they are responding to customers. You know, it's like a CIBIL ranking, or whatever ranking. You know, every e-commerce site should get. If something like that would help consumers to decide what kind of e-merchant they are dealing with. I think.
Shadab, one of the areas we discussed was that what are the innovations you're seeing which are happening on the payment side to ensure efficiency of payments or create consumer trust or convenience? Any interesting innovations you have seen which you'd like to share?
The wallet services is a very big initiative that have been taken by most of the retailers. I think that's a very good thing. It creates a trust in the customer, stickiness, and I think the most important part for any merchant, for any customer to shop is believe in that retailer. That confidence is what has to come.
So I think Shanta's point is that potentially creating a wallet has been a big trust creator. And my discussion with Deepak, another point which came is, I don't know how many of you have heard of a new technology called Square. It's a small device, you put it on your phone and you can swipe your card. We recently, in my avatar as Insula, we implemented this for Paperbuzz Direct. It gets integrated with the tablet and you can actually take a payment on the tablet itself. I think Deepak, you had some perspective there on how people are using assisted commerce technology. Any perspective on the Square side of it, the adoption, the challenges?
Yeah, sure. So, mobile POS is something that's been around for a little while now. Square innovated it in the US. They have plenty of people now that have copied that. In Europe and over here, that's got converted to an EMV-based mobile POS because of regulations and security. I think that's going to drive a lot of acceptance amongst merchants. as you go forward for card payments. So these innovations will come. I think the big push is going to have to come from merchants that will drive e-payments, e-tailing and e-commerce. And it's not just the Flipkarts of the world that will drive it or the Snapdeals. I think what we'll see is even existing merchants who are physical merchants will start to push towards e-tailing and make that happen. And some of these physical merchants, you see it happening now around the world. Somebody like Walmart is extremely concerned that Amazon is now a $50 billion company and is eating their lunch, so to say. You find people like that coming with innovative e-tailing concepts which bring in consumers, make consumers choose what they want, pay over the web, but come and pick up goods physically at a store. So I think you're seeing innovation of all kinds coming through, including MPOS, as you mentioned. But I think the important thing to remember is that it's the merchants who are going to drive this, and the banks who tend to be followers, who are to be dragged, almost, physically dragged to make the innovation come true.
Yes. So I think just to sum up the discussion before we open up for questions, we've got 5 to 6 minutes left for the questions. I feel that one of the big points got by the whole panel is that we've got to find a way to create more trust. Because if we create more trust, the market can expand. And we got some answers in terms of creating those trust by saying that, the Indian Jugaad in form of COD is a fantastic tool. I think we should all look towards finding better innovative solutions which can suit the Indian market, either at the retail point or making the cost of COD go down. I think another point which came across is that if regulator doesn't help us in terms of the returns to create trust, we should find our own alternative methods to potentially drive this entire ecosystem. So that's it from the panel side of it. I'll open the house for any questions. Please feel free to ask. Yeah, Shri.
I think it's interesting some of the statistics that you mentioned, especially on the bank penetration side or the usage of cards, etc. And the response has also been great in terms of how we've responded to different payment solutions or systems that are coming up. But I think that's creating a different kind of a problem, both for merchants or e-commerce companies as well as for customers. How many such solutions or services providers should I integrate with? And as a customer, how many such wallets or apps should I carry on my cell phone? Where do you see all of this headed? And I think while it's solving a problem, it's creating another one. What's your take on that?
You don't have to integrate with multiple service providers. That's where the integrated solutions provider will come in handy. The provider which has end-to-end solution, which includes your POS, which includes your wallet services, online, IBR, they all work on the same platform. So I think you need to find the right person who provides entire end-to-end service.
I think I have a perspective on it. This exactly happened all across the world. And you will find that there are aggregators who will make this as a business opportunity at a fraction of a transaction cost and put all this together. So shipping was a challenge. A company called Shipwire came in the US, put that all together. If payment disintegration happens, people will put it together. I don't think so. As a retailer, as a brand, you need to worry about going across, integrating with many more people. You'll find an entrepreneur quickly solving this topic. Yeah, please.
I think if I understand your question, there are challenges right now. So if you look at a payment gateway, 5 different guys have 5 different kinds of service levels, and they have challenges. So somebody has probably a ratio of 28%, 30%, somebody has a 5%. As more and more new people are coming, this legacy system will start waning off, and it will evolve into a more robust platforms. Okay, so till such time, my advice is you have to rely on multiple of such, even within a particular kind of payment system.
Or an aggregator in between.
Yeah.
Hi. I just want to share an experience. recently I made a purchase from Flipkart, and I bought 4 glass. I wanted to pick one. So the guy came in. I said, let me check which one I want to choose. I'll keep it and I'll give you the rest in return. He said, no, you cannot do it because it's not a Flipkart policy. The same, I received the refund of another 3. I chose one, and the 3 refund for the 3 got refund after a month. So that was pretty annoying. And similarly, my wife did something. She did it with Jabong, and she had a wonderful experience. So she always tells me that you should never buy it from Flipkart because it's just her experience or what Jabong gave them. That as soon as a guy comes in, they can check it. If they find it okay, return it, or keep it, or if it is not, return it. This is what Jabong is doing, and the other part what is Flipkart is doing. So here, the convenience is offered by Jabong in terms of payment. The hassle of all the payment and return goes away, even on cash on delivery. So that model probably, I think so, Jabong is doing better than Flipkart somewhere. And secondly, with this Airtel Money, what is a wallet kind of system, it is fantastically used in Kenya as of now. Like almost 80% of the users in Kenya use this mobile money platform. And I'm really surprised that it's still not coming into India, or it's not adapted by India. I don't know why. What's the reason?
I think first part of your question was just a perspective, so I hope best of luck to Jabong and Flipkart.
And the second part, I think I'll answer both the parts. I would like to ask you a question. Would you like to receive something from Jabong that was checked by someone else and returned? Would you like that? If someone had checked it, physically touched it and returned it, and you got that stuff, would you like that?
No, it doesn't happen with Jabong as well. They give it in the back condition.
No, I'm saying this consumer behavior of checking and returning. Would you like it if you found out that the stuff that you've received was checked by someone before?
Yeah, it was done in Flipkart also. I returned them after a certain
I
time.
think you're missing the point. Would you like to receive goods which were physically checked by someone and probably has fingerprints on it?
Definitely not.
That's exactly the point. So there are certain things that you have to understand that as consumer behavior we want, but as business, some calls have to be taken for a larger group's interest, right? So that's the thing why Flipkart is doing what they're doing and Jabong is what they're doing. No one is right and wrong, but as consumers we need to be more aware about certain things, that if we are doing certain behavior, it might be affecting someone else also who's in the same consumer scenario, right? That's the first part. Second part on Airtel Money, I think there are 2 factors. I think banking system is quite evolved from other geographies for us. And I think what has happened, unfortunately, for telcos, there is a huge trust deficit on telcos, unfortunately, because of the onset of vast services that happened, and a lot of consumers felt that they were being sort of cheated for activation of services that they did not pay for, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to putting money with them, that's a tough one. It's like, I know someone is my friend, but he always steals money from me. Now I'm going to deposit all my money and salary with him. It's not going to happen.
We're running out of time. Can we take one more question on it? Just one last question.
My question is, is it possible to offer EMI on a debit card transaction?
As of now, no.
Okay.
But Mobile Store is planning to launch EMI on debit card platform. They're still evolving on that. I'm not saying right now, no, is what I'm trying to tell you.
But someone has to take the risk. I don't think anyone has identified who's the risk taker at this point.
Essentially, it has to be the bank, because they are extending the loan.
Unless a merchant decides to be more.
Maybe.
Alright, another sub question is, I think this
So, the purpose of a debit card is quite different from that of a credit card.
Sure.
A credit card, you're taking risk by lending money. EMI, you're doing exactly that. In a debit card, as a bank, you don't take risk because you're not lending money. So what you're doing by saying I want EMI on a debit card, from a banking point of view, is sort of bringing 2 opposing things together and saying now produce a third banking product for me. So there's an element which the bank, the issuing bank needs to look at, saying do they want to make that debit card into a semi-credit card going forward and lend you money. So it's a risk issue, it's a product issue from a banking perspective, not payments or a movement of money perspective?
No, Deepak. In fact, I would beg to differ, because in case of a debit card, what's happening is it's my money in my account, and I am just making a plastic payment for it, isn't it?
No, you're not. In a debit card, if you're taking an EMI, you're effectively saying, I'm borrowing money which I will pay back to you in the future. You may empty your account tomorrow if I'm the banker. How do I know that after taking the EMI tomorrow you won't take all the money out?
Oh, yeah.
So I have to take risk on you and give you a loan effectively.
Sure.
But that is not a debit card product, that's a credit card product or a personal loan product. So you're not making me mix the two together.
I think that's I think I have to come to a halt here.
Can I just have
Just
a
finish.
quick question? This thing about COD versus paying by net banking or credit cards. I think e-com is all about convenience, right? That's the main thing. It's very, very inconvenient to use a credit card. A person, you've got to punch in your credit card details, you've got to remember. I'm shopping at 12:30 in the night. My husband is sleeping and I'm not even sleep. I want to shop. I don't want to get up and go to my cupboard and get my credit card out. So I do a COD. So it's not about not trusting the website, let me tell you that. It's so irritating because you put in your numbers and then you'll get an SMS, then you put in that, or you forgot your password. So the only reason why a lot of people don't use prepayment is because of the inconvenience.
I'm completely with you. In fact,
But what I want to ask is, how come when I buy something from Amazon in the US, they've got my credit card details for the past 3 years and I don't get an SMS. I just get that, okay, you got a transaction done. But when I use it in India, I've got to do all that stuff.
because this entire regulation is because of the Indian regulation, not because of the US side of the regulation.
So maybe all the websites should, put the money in the US. So it's easy.
I think, and I'm very sure businesses will find these answers as they move ahead. But we personally felt that regulator is a big limitation, and the banks are a big limitation.
Believe me, because I don't think there's anybody in this room who shops more than me. I shop at least 5 or 6 things, and then when you buy something, like I bought cat food from Snapdeal, I got 15 SMSs because they ran out of it and they said, we cancelled the order, we refunded your money. I said, okay, you keep the money, just don't SMS me while I'm in a meeting. So, yeah.
Thank you guys, hard stop. You've been a patient audience. I hope this was valuable for you. Thanks to the panelists. Thank you guys.